everyone, it's Teresa Green from Slow Paths Wellness, and it is another Mindful Monday. Today I want to talk about something that seemed to be popping up everywhere in things I listen to. I've seen it in podcasts, I've seen it on videos, and I've even been reading about it in books. It's about choosing what to focus on of all the stuff that your brain generates. So the first part of that is understanding kind of how the brain works with thoughts. Brains are kind of just machines that make up all kinds of stuff all the time, just about 24 hours a day. If you try to tell somebody not to think, they'll think. That's why they have the joke about, don't think about a pink elephant, and all of a sudden all you can think about is a pink elephant because the thought's in your brain. And most mindfulness traditions, most meditation traditions are about being able to see those thoughts and not engage with them in any way. It's not so much about emptying your mind, although that's what they talk about. That's a lot of times they'll talk about sitting still and emptying your mind. What usually happens is your mind isn't empty. There's all kinds of stuff happening in there. The way to get towards an empty mind feeling is to see those things just going by. I know many of the guided meditations that I recommend to other people talk about imagining your mind as a stream, and all the little thoughts that you have are like little leaves or little bits of rock or little fishes going down the stream, and you just let them go by. And so that's one of the ways that you can really make a huge difference in things like anxiety and things like feeling sad or depressed in a way that you're not able to move through, or having self-talk that's very critical, is to understand that your brain makes thoughts. I like to compare it to a lava lamp. I've heard different people use different comparisons, but if you have a lava lamp and you turn it on, all those little blobs will just kind of happen, because that's the way lava lamps work through some kind of science that I don't understand. But if you try to focus on one of those little blobs and watch it doing stuff, well, in lava lamp world, that might be a little bit fun. In thought world, oftentimes it's not, because oftentimes what we tend to focus on are not the happy-go-lucky, great, wonderful, positive thoughts. It's the, did I turn the oven off? Or what's going to happen if this bad thing happens? Or why did that person not smile at me the right way that I wanted them to at a meeting yesterday? So understanding that your brain has thoughts, it constantly generates them, that you are not required in any way to focus on any one of those thoughts. You can just kind of watch them go by. And that you can also choose to focus on some of them, so that you can pick the ones that you tell your brain these thoughts have priority. And then what happens over time is your brain will seek out more of those thoughts. So if anyone's been watching my Mindful Monday videos in the past, you know that I talk a lot about savoring. I talk about finding the good things and really focusing on them, trying to really memorize how they feel and what they feel like in your body, because it teaches your brain to look for more of those. It also teaches your brain that you're in a safe place where you're able to enjoy things, and that helps your brain create fewer anxiety thoughts. It also allows your nervous system to enjoy the feeling of not having to be in fight or flight reaction, the sympathetic nervous system response. And in that response, that's when you are unable to rest well, you're unable to digest food well, you tend to have lots of aches and pains because everything tenses up, and you actually even tend to be more likely to store calories as fat because of the way that cortisol works with the rest of your body. So today's Mindful Monday is, let's look at our thoughts, let's notice, hey, look, there are thoughts going by, and then choosing the ones that you might want to cultivate a relationship with. So we'll do a quick little practice with it. I want you to close your eyes. I'll keep mine open because it really does look weird to look at someone with their eyes closed on a video. I've noticed that. And just let your brain go. So as you are there, a thought may rise up. I need to make that phone call. Oh, I didn't pay that bill. Boy, purple's a pretty color. Whatever those thoughts are, just notice them. You can kind of picture them like little lava lamp blobs going up the little lava lamp and then falling back down the little lava lamp. And just notice the fact that you're having thoughts. Notice the fact that you are separate from those thoughts. You're able to think about the thoughts, which means they're not one and the same. Notice that you can have feelings as part of what your brain kicks up, and there will be thoughts associated with those feelings. And feelings can sometimes be very self-critical. I'm never going to look like a model in a magazine. Why did I do this thing that I think is stupid? Notice that you can have those thoughts. And also notice that you don't have to attach an emotion to them. You can just notice, oh, I'm feeling self-critical right now. I don't want to continue doing that. Being able to do that is a very, very important part of stepping into self-compassion, which we've talked about in other videos. Being able to notice, oh, that's a sad thought. And then just letting it continue to be a sad thought. You may even feel a little bit of sadness, and you can kind of latch onto that sadness and really get in it and really feel it really deeply. And sometimes that may be important if you're grieving something that's a really big grief and you kind of need to sort of sink into it and really feel it. But a lot of times it's just sort of a passing sadness. And this time of year in Chinese medicine, we talk about fall and autumn as being a time where grief and kind of letting your nervous system kind of naturally wants to come up with the things it wants to let go of, and having a little bit of grief over that, even if it's just a box of clothes you haven't worn in 2 years that you're giving away. Sometimes there's a little bit of grief in that. Noticing, oh, I'm having a grief thought of that. And then you can decide what to do with that thought. For this practice, we're just going to let it go by. If you need to do something about it, if you feel like there's more you need to process, come back to it. But for right now, let's just sit, let those thoughts come up. Notice the thought. Don't put a lot of work into trying to label it. Just notice it. So for me, as I sit and kind of, stand and kind of notice my thoughts, I'm noticing, I wonder what I look like on camera, because I'm trying to stare at the camera instead of at my image on this recording. I wonder if my voice is loud enough, because sometimes it seems sort of soft. I wonder if I look okay on the camera. So all those are sort of, self-doubt kind of thoughts. I'm noticing I have them. I'm accepting that I have them. I'm remembering that that's okay. And then I'm letting them go by. And so now I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what's for supper. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm having a thought about what's for supper, and I'm letting it go by. So just sit with that and try it. Now, at first, especially if you tend to have a lot of anger or a lot of anxiety, or you have a lot of unprocessed emotions where you feel things and you don't really feel like you have a place to put them. Like sometimes if you're in relationships where boundaries are an issue, either you're not very good at setting them or someone else is very good at trampling on them, then you may feel a whole lot of uncomfortable thoughts because your brain is used to kind of trying to let you know something is wrong. So a lot of times those anxious thoughts, those irritable thoughts, those sad thoughts is your brain saying, I'm noticing something isn't right. And you may feel a whole bunch of those. Sometimes the something that isn't right is you're in an unfair relationship, or you have something coming up that you need to solve, and for whatever reason you're either unable or at the moment not quite ready to try to solve it. Sometimes the thing that your brain is saying, this is wrong and this is bad, is just that you had a history of thinking these thoughts for so long that your brain just keeps coming up with them. So let yourself just let the thought go for right now. Like I said, if it's something you feel like you really need to do something about, when it comes back the next time, you can hop on it and work with it then. So just sit. We're going to go for another couple of seconds. Just see a thought and let it go. See a thought and let it go. Feel a feeling with a thought. You may feel a bit of anxiety, a little bit of the heart quickening or kind of a tension or something like that. Notice that you're feeling that and let it go. Even if your body doesn't necessarily follow you right away in letting it go, let it go anyway. And even if you kind of still feel that tension, just say, okay, the tension is staying there. I'm letting it go. At first, you may not feel like that happens very successfully. You may not instantly feel blissful and like you're ready to take a nap or something, or ready to float away on some kind of blissful cloud. But if you do that over and over again, you will find that it improves. And I can say that from talking to other people that it's happened for, and in my own experience. I've had a long life of anxiety, of worrying, of resenting little things people have done. And about, 2 or 3 years ago, I started consciously trying to cultivate a different mindset and a different way of handling life in general. And when I first started, it took several weeks, and then I noticed that before I would start feeling overwhelmed or afraid or very upset over something that was relatively minor, but it had a whole lot of old emotions behind it, that I would get, at first, I just felt them. And I would either blow up or cry or, whatever reaction I was having. And then I noticed I'd get those like a teeny couple seconds where I go, oh, here it comes. Here comes this wave of emotion or feeling or whatever. And I couldn't do much about it, but I could feel it was coming. And then I started noticing, okay, I'm noticing I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I don't want to go through that whole cycle of blow up and feeling bad. Maybe I could just take a second and breathe. Okay, this wasn't as bad as I thought. I think I can work with this. Or I'd have that little second and I'd be able to say to, whoever it was that was bothering me, or, that I thought was bothering me, I was having a reaction to something someone was saying or doing, I could say, I need a minute before we discuss this further. Or, I can tell you're very upset about this. Why don't we take a break and we'll try to talk about it later? Or I could say, I think what you're saying is makes perfect sense, but for some reason I'm feeling way more about it than I feel like is really conducive to a conversation. Give me just a moment and I'll see if I can settle that down. And then, after all that, I started noticing that I just didn't get those overwhelming feelings anymore. My body had gotten used to the idea that I could have a passing thought, a passing emotion, a passing feeling, and not freak out about it. So it's not that I never have those. I think every human being on the planet will always have things that triggers them into reactions, but I have a lot fewer. And when I do have those reactions, it's a lot less often that they become overwhelming or that I react before I can think and decide how I want to respond. And even when that happens, I'm able to fix it a whole lot more quickly because I'm able to go back to someone that maybe I was a little harsh with and say, oh, I am really sorry. I realized that I had a reaction. That's not how I wanted to respond to this. Could we talk about this some other time? So, Mindful Monday for today. Remember, your brain makes thoughts. That's what brains do. Remember that you can choose which thoughts you want to latch onto and which ones you want to just go on by. Remember that you can also have a whole practice time of 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you want to do, of just letting all the thoughts just go by. Just notice them and let them go. Notice them and let them go. And that's a really good exercise to help you to be better at doing it day to day. And finally, please remember and hopefully just really buy into the idea that practicing this idea over and over and over will give you the ability to really enjoy yourself more, to not be kind of tugged all the time by different emotions and different overwhelming things that a lot of times have very little to do with whatever's going on in the current moment and are based on things that happened in the past. Now, those things in the past you will want to deal with in some way. You may want to have a therapist, you may want to journal about it, you may want to buy a book about it, you may want to talk to a coach about how to deal with the emotions, although coaches don't so much deal with the traumas in the past. They more help you handle the fact that you're having trauma now. It's normally therapists or psychologists who help you with the actual moment of trauma and kind of helping yourself to go back to that moment and heal that. But Mindful Monday, brains have thoughts. You can choose which thoughts you want, and you can give yourself the credit and the compassion and the time to be able to let those thoughts go by and practice doing that so that your nervous system gets a much easier and happier ride through life. Have a wonderful Monday, and I will see you next week.